I do not favor punishing children, most of whom are now adults, for the actions of their parents, Mr. Trump said in a written statement. But we must also recognize that we are a nation of opportunity because we are a nation of laws. The statement was released shortly after Mr. Trump, who had called the issue a personal dilemma, dispatched his Attorney General to announce that the government will no longer accept new applications from undocumented immigrants to shield them from deportation under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, known as the DACA. Administration officials said the roughly 800,000 current beneficiaries of the program, brought to the United States illegally as children, will not be immediately affected by what they call an orderly wind-down of former President Barack Obama's policy. Only by the reliable enforcement of immigration law can we produce safe communities, a robust middle class, and economic fairness for all Americans, Mr. Trump said, calling the DACA program an amnesty-first approach. Before we ask what is fair to illegal immigrants, we must also ask what is fair to American families, students, taxpayers, and job seekers, the President added. Earlier on Tuesday, it was Attorney General Jeff Sessions, an immigration hardliner who has helped shape Mr. Trump's views, who publicly announced the move, in essence shifting responsibility for the immigration issue to lawmakers. The program known as the DACA that was effectuated under the Obama administration is being rescinded, Mr. Sessions told reporters, adding that the policy was implemented unilaterally, to great controversy and legal concern. Mr. Sessions called the Obama-era policy an open-ended circumvention of immigration laws and an unconstitutional use of executive authority. The executive branch through the DACA deliberately sought to achieve what the legislative branch specifically refused to authorize on multiple occasions, he said. He also used the agreed language of anti-immigrant activists who argue that undocumented people are lawbreakers who hurt native-born Americans by usurping their jobs and pushing down wages. The effect of this unilateral executive amnesty, among other things, contributed to a surge of minors at the southern border with humanitarian consequences, Mr. Sessions said. It denied jobs to hundreds of thousands of Americans by allowing those same illegal aliens to take those jobs. Elaine Duke, the acting Homeland Security Secretary, said in a statement that Mr. Trump chose to wind the program down in an orderly fashion that protects beneficiaries in the near term while working with Congress to pass legislation. The announcement was an effort by Mr. Trump to honor his campaign pledge to end Mr. Obama's immigration policy, while avoiding an immediate termination of protections and work permits for the so-called Dreamers, many of whom have lived in the United States since they were small children. We are people of compassion, and we are people of law, but there is nothing compassionate about the failure to enforce immigration law, Mr. Sessions said. Referring to Mr. Trump's campaign promise to immediately terminate the DACA, Mr. Sessions said Tuesday's action was what the president promised to do, adding that Mr. Trump has delivered to the American people. The announcement formally started the clock on revoking legal status from those protected under the 5-year-old program. Mr. Obama created the DACA program as a way of protecting young, undocumented immigrants from deportation after Republicans in Congress repeatedly blocked passage of legislation to accomplish that goal. The policy allowed about 800,000 young adults who were brought to the United States illegally as children to work legally in the United States and remain in the country without the fear of immediate deportation. Officials said some of the current immigrants already receiving protection under the Obama-era plan will be able to renew their 2-year period of legal status until October 5. But the announcement means that if Congress fails to act, Undocumented immigrants who were brought to the United States as children could face deportation as early as March to countries where many of them have never lived. Congress now has the opportunity to advance responsible immigration reform that puts American jobs and American security first, Mr. Trump said in his statement, calling for the enactment of legislation that would slash legal immigration levels by prioritizing the admittance of people who speak English and have advanced skills. The president said he wanted to resolve the DACA issue with heart and compassion, but through the lawful democratic process, while at the same time ensuring that any immigration reform we adopt provides enduring benefits for the American citizens we were elected to serve. We must also have heart and compassion for unemployed, struggling, and forgotten Americans. Immigration officials said that they do not intend to actively target the young immigrants as priorities for deportation, though without the program's protection, the immigrants are considered subject to removal from the United States and would no longer be able to work legally. Homeland Security officials said no specific guidance would be issued to agents to shield the young undocumented immigrants from deportation. It would be up to Congress to extend such protection, they said,